The massive alien vessel hung in space like a silver mountain, its smooth hull reflecting the distant light of the sun. It was larger than anything humanity had ever built, stretching nearly 3 miles from end to end. Ambassador Zereth of the Vel-3 Collective stood at the viewing window of his ship, watching the small human space station orbiting Mars. To him, it looked like a child's toy floating in an ocean. Zereth had been chosen for this mission because of his experience. In his 300 years of service to the Galactic Council, he had welcomed 17 species into the fold. The process was always the same. The young species would be amazed by the technology. They would be frightened by the power. And they would accept the terms of membership without question. It was the natural order of things. Commander Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the alien ship through the main display screen. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 20 years in the military before joining the space program, and she had learned to trust her instincts. Right now, her instincts were telling her that something was wrong. "They're hailing us again," said Lieutenant Kevin Marsh from his station. He was younger than Lisa, with a calm manner that made him excellent in crisis situations. "Same message as before. They want to discuss terms of integration." Lisa nodded slowly. The aliens had been sending messages for 3 days now. At first, the world had celebrated. Humanity was not alone in the universe. There were other intelligent beings out there, and they wanted to talk. But as the translations of the alien messages became clearer, the celebration had faded. "Read it to me again," Lisa said. Kevin pulled up the document on his screen. "The Galactic Council welcomes humanity to the galactic community. As a newly spacefaring species, you are offered junior membership status. In exchange for protection and access to Council trade networks, you will accept the following terms. First, all weapons development beyond Class 2 designation will cease immediately. Second, all military installations will be open to Council inspection. Third, population growth will be limited to a rate determined by Council demographic specialists. Fourth, all governmental decisions affecting space development must be approved by a Council overseer." Lisa listened in silence. When Kevin finished, she let out a long breath. "And what happens if we refuse?" "The message says that refusal is not advisable. Species that refuse integration are denied access to trade networks, technology exchanges, and Council protection. They also mention something called enforcement actions for species that pose a threat to galactic stability." Lisa turned to look out at the alien ship. It was beautiful in its way, all smooth curves and glowing lights. But beauty could hide danger. She had learned that lesson many times in her life. "Contact Earth," she said. "Send the full translation to the United Nations Space Authority. Tell them we need guidance." The response came 6 hours later. Lisa read it 3 times to make sure she understood correctly. The message from Earth was simple and clear. Humanity would not accept these terms. They were not terms of membership. They were terms of surrender. Lisa felt something warm spread through her chest. It might have been pride. It might have been fear. Probably it was both. She opened a channel to the alien vessel. "Ambassador Zereth, this is Commander Lisa Grant of the Earth vessel. Horizon's Edge, we have received your offer of membership in the Galactic Council. After careful consideration, humanity respectfully declines. We will continue our independent development. We wish you safe travels." The silence that followed lasted nearly 10 minutes. Lisa imagined the alien ambassador trying to process what he had just heard. When the response finally came, Zereth's translated voice sounded confused. "Commander Grant, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Perhaps the translation was imperfect. No species has ever refused Council membership. The benefits are immense. The consequences of refusal are severe. Please reconsider." Lisa looked at Kevin. He shrugged. She turned back to the screen. "Ambassador, there is no misunderstanding. We understand your offer perfectly. We understand the consequences of refusal. Our answer is still no." At another long silence. When Zereth spoke again, his voice had changed. The friendly tone was gone, replaced by something harder. "Commander, I must be clear about what you are doing. The Galactic Council controls all major trade routes. We possess weapons that can destroy planets. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for 12,000 years. Species that defy us do not prosper. Lisa felt her jaw tighten. She had faced threats before from enemies who thought they could break her will with words. It had never worked. Ambassador, let me be equally clear. Humanity has fought wars for thousands of years. We have faced extinction events that killed most of our species. We have clawed our way up from the mud to reach the stars through nothing but determination and stubbornness. Your threats do not frighten us. They only confirm that we made the right decision. She ended the transmission before Xyrith could respond. Kevin let out a low whistle. That was bold. That was necessary, Lisa said. If we showed weakness now, they would smell blood. Better to let them know from the start that we won't be pushed around. The alien vessel remained in position for another 2 days. Lisa assumed they were communicating with their superiors, trying to figure out how to handle this unexpected situation. Finally, without any further contact, the ship turned and accelerated away. Disappearing into the darkness between stars, on Earth the reaction to the news was mixed. Some people were terrified. They had seen the size of the alien ship, heard the threats in the messages. How could humanity hope to stand against such power? Others were angry. Who were these aliens to demand submission? Earth belonged to humans, and no one else had the right to tell them what to do. Director Nathan Cole of the United Nations Defense Initiative watched the debates on the news while studying classified reports. He was a quiet man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole career preparing for threats that most people did not believe existed. Now the threat was real, and he had work to do. "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Patricia Simmons, his chief scientist. She was sitting across from him in his office, tablet in her hands, showing the latest analysis of the alien ship's capabilities. Nathan considered the question carefully. Based on their communication patterns and travel speed, I estimate 3 to 4 months before they send a response fleet. Patricia nodded. That's not much time. No, Nathan agreed, but it's enough. The question is whether we're willing to do what needs to be done. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the city. Somewhere up there, among the stars that were just becoming visible, an alien empire was deciding humanity's fate. They thought they held all the power. They thought humans were just another primitive species to be absorbed into their system. They were about to learn. How wrong they were. Patricia joined him at the window. The Council has thousands of years of technological advancement on us. They control hundreds of star systems. Their fleet could probably destroy our entire civilization in a matter of days. Nathan smiled slightly. All true. But they've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when our survival is at stake. He turned to face her. Get your team ready. We have a lot of work to do and not much time to do it. When those ships come, I want to give them a welcome they'll never forget. The war for humanity's independence was about to begin. The Great Chamber of Nexus Prime was the largest structure in the known galaxy. It floated at the center of an artificial ring world, K-place where representatives from hundreds of species gathered to decide the fate of civilizations. The walls were made of a crystal that changed color based on the mood of the assembly. Right now, they glowed an angry red. High Counselor Morith of the Drenix hegemony sat upon his elevated throne. Looking down at the gathered delegates, he was an imposing creature, standing nearly 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 powerful arms. His species had ruled the Council for the past 2,000 years, and he had held his position for the last 300. In all that time, he had never faced a situation like this. They refused, he announced, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. The humans have refused standard integration. The reaction was immediate. Delegates began speaking over each other, their translation devices creating a cacophony of noise. Some expressed disbelief. Others demanded immediate action. A few simply sat in stunned silence. The L3 delegate floated forward in its containment field. The L3 were beings of pure energy, ancient and powerful. They rarely spoke in council meetings, which made their words carry extra weight. This is unprecedented, the L3 said. its voice like crackling electricity. In 12,000 years, no species has rejected membership. Perhaps they require a demonstration of our capabilities. A small show of force to encourage reconsideration. Ambassador Zereth raised one of his tentacles to request permission to speak. Morith nodded, and the Velthari moved to the center of the chamber. Honored delegates, I must share my observations from the encounter. The humans did not refuse out of ignorance. They understood our offer completely. More troubling, they understood our threats and were not moved by them. Impossible, said Counselor Veth of the Sarante. She was a slender being with iridescent scales and 3 sets of eyes. Every species fears the Council's military power. We control the hyperspace routes. We can blockade any system. We can bombard any planet into dust. Zyrith's skin changed color, a sign of discomfort among his kind. I tell you only what I witnessed. When I warned them of consequences, their commander did not show fear. She showed defiance. She spoke of wars her species had fought, of survival against great odds. She said our threats confirmed that they had made the correct choice. The chamber fell silent. Morith leaned forward on his throne, his 4 eyes narrowing. Show me this, Commander, he ordered. A holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Lisa Grant standing on the bridge of her ship, her posture straight and her eyes hard. The delegates studied her carefully. She looked so small, so fragile compared to most of them. How could such a creature show no fear? Humans are physically weak, Zereth explained. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. Their planet is barely suitable for life by galactic standards. And yet they have spread across their world, survived catastrophes that would have destroyed other species, and reached space through their own efforts in a remarkably short time. All the more reason to integrate them quickly, said a delegate from the Minari Syndicate. Clearly they have potential. Under Council guidance, they could become valuable members. They do not want guidance, Zereth replied. They want freedom, and I believe they are willing to fight for it. Morith made a rumbling sound deep in his chest. It was the Drennick's equivalent of laughter. Let them fight. What can one small species do against the combined might of the Council? We will send a fleet to remind them of their place in the universe. The vote was held within the hour. 43 species voted in favor of sending an enforcement fleet. 3 abstained. Only 1, the ancient Elthari, voted against. You make a mistake, the Elthari delegate warned. We have watched the humans for some time. They are not like other species. They do not think as we think. They are unpredictable, dangerous. Morith dismissed the warning with a wave of his hand. Dangerous? They have been in space for less than a century. They have a handful of ships, primitive weapons, no hyperspace capability. The fleet will arrive, demonstrate our power, and the humans will submit. It has happened 1,000 times before. It will happen again, on Earth. Humanity was preparing for war. Nathan Cole had been given emergency powers by the United Nations Security Council. Factories that had been producing civilian spacecraft were converted to military production. Mining operations on asteroids were accelerated to gather raw materials. Scientists worked around the clock on projects that had been considered impossible just months before. Patricia Simmons led a team of the brightest minds on the planet. Their task was simple to describe and nearly impossible to achieve. Find a way to defeat an enemy with technology thousands of years more advanced. We can't match them in a straight fight, Patricia told her team during their first meeting. Their shields are too strong, their weapons too powerful. If we try to build bigger ships and bigger guns, we'll lose. Then what do? Asked Dr. Samuel Wright, a physicist who had spent his career studying exotic energy fields. Patricia smiled. We don't fight fair. We find their weaknesses and exploit them. We use our creativity, our adaptability, our willingness to try things that more advanced species would consider beneath them. The team worked in secret, hidden in underground facilities that even most government officials did not know existed. They studied every scrap of data from the alien encounter. They analyzed the readings from the Velthari ship. They looked for patterns, vulnerabilities, anything they could use. Samuel made the first breakthrough. Their computer systems are incredibly advanced, he reported, but they're also incredibly old. These designs haven't been updated in centuries. Why would they? The systems work perfectly. No one has ever challenged them. Old systems mean old security, said Dr. Maria Santos, a computer scientist who had once been the world's most wanted hacker. If we can figure out their protocols, we might be able to get inside their networks. Meanwhile, Lisa Grant was building a fleet. She knew it would not be enough to defeat the aliens in open combat. But that was not the plan. The plan was to survive long enough for the scientists to do their work. We're going to hide, she told Kevin Marsh as they reviewed the tactical plans. The asteroid belt provides natural cover. We'll spread our ships out, stay quiet, and wait for them to make the first move. Kevin frowned. That's a defensive strategy. It won't win the war. No, Lisa agreed, but it will buy us time. And time is the one thing we need most right now. Back on Nexus Prime, Admiral Cathrell of the Drenix was assembling his fleet. He had been given command of the 14th Enforcement Fleet, 200 of the most powerful warships in the Council's arsenal. It was enough firepower to conquer a dozen systems. This is excessive force for one planet, his second-in-command observed. Cathrell shrugged, a gesture he had learned from studying other species. High Counselor Morath wants to send a message, not just to the humans, but to any other species that might consider defiance. When we are finished, no one will dare challenge Council authority again. He looked out at his assembled ships, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. The humans thought they could resist the Council's will. They were about to learn how foolish that belief truly was as the fleet entered hyperspace. Heading for the small yellow star called Sol, no one in the Council imagined what was waiting for them. No one suspected that the primitive humans had already discovered their weakness, and no one dreamed that in a matter of weeks, the balance of power in the galaxy would begin to shift. The countdown to battle had begun. The 14th Enforcement Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of metal locusts. 200 warships spread across the darkness of space, their weapons powered and their crews ready for battle. Admiral Cathrell stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Wrath of Drenix, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Scan the system, he ordered. Find their fleet. His sensors officer, a young Drenix named Torvak, worked the controls with practiced efficiency. After several minutes, he looked up with confusion on his face. Admiral, I am detecting no enemy vessels, no defense platforms, no weapon signatures. The human fleet appears to be absent. Cathrell felt a flicker of disappointment. He had hoped for at least some resistance. A battle would have been satisfying, a chance to demonstrate Drenix's superiority in combat. But surrender was acceptable too. They've seen our fleet and lost their courage, he said. A wise decision, even if it denies us the pleasure of victory in battle. Set course for the third planet. We will accept their surrender in orbit above their capital cities. The fleet moved deeper into the system, passing the outer gas giants with their swirling clouds and countless moons. The journey took several hours at sublight speed, and during that time, not a single human ship appeared to challenge them. On the surface of Earth, people watched the approaching fleet with terror. The alien ships were visible even through civilian telescopes, a line of bright points moving steadily closer. Governments issued statements urging calm. Religious leaders held prayer services. Some people fled to underground shelters. Others simply waited, wondering if these were the last hours of human civilization. Nathan Cole watched from his command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dozens of screens surrounded him, showing feeds from satellites, observation posts, and the hidden human fleet. They're taking the bait, Patricia said, standing beside him. They think we've given up, Nathan nodded. His heart was pounding, but his voice remained calm. That's what we wanted them to think. Is everything ready? The satellites are in position. Maria's virus has been uploaded to the delivery system. We're just waiting for them to get close enough. How close? Patricia checked her tablet. Optimal range is about 1 million kilometers. Any closer and they might detect our hidden ships. Any farther, and the pulse might not reach all of them. Nathan turned to a communications officer. Signal Admiral Grant. Tell her the operation is go.
At.
Lisa Grant received the message aboard the horizon's edge. Around her, hidden among the tumbling rocks and ancient ice, waited the entire human fleet. 53 ships, ranging from converted cargo vessels to purpose-built destroyers. It was a tiny force compared to what they faced, but size was not everything. All ships. This is Admiral Grant, she said into her communicator. The enemy fleet is approaching optimal range. Prepare to execute Operation Blackout on my command. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of. The alien fleet continued its approach, completely unaware of the trap. Admiral Kethrel was reviewing the terms of surrender he would offer to the humans. He would be generous, he decided. There was no need for unnecessary cruelty. The humans would accept Council authority, hand over their military assets, and be integrated into the galactic community as productive junior members, Admiral Torvak said suddenly, his voice sharp-wit. H-alarm. I am detecting energy signatures throughout the system. Multiple sources. They appear to be satellites of some kind. Kethrel frowned. Satellites? What kind of satellites? Before Torvak could answer, Lisa Grant gave her order. Execute Operation Blackout. Now. Across the Sol system, hidden satellites came online. They were small devices, no larger than a human automobile, and they had been placed in orbit weeks before the alien fleet arrived. Each one contained 2 components, a powerful electromagnetic pulse generator and a quantum transmitter loaded with Maria Santos's carefully crafted virus. The pulse hit first. A wave of electromagnetic energy swept through the alien fleet, overloading sensors and disrupting communications. The virus followed immediately after, transmitted directly into the Council ship's computer networks. Through gaps in their security that had existed for centuries without anyone noticing, on the wrath of Drenix, every screen went dark. Emergency lights flickered on as primary systems failed. Kethrel gripped his command chair as the ship lurched, its navigation controls no longer responding. What is happening? He demanded. I do not know, Admiral Torvak replied, panic creeping into his voice. Our systems are failing. All of them. Weapons, shields, navigation, life support. Everything is shutting down. Kethrel tried to contact the other ships, but his communications were dead. Through the viewports, he could see the rest of his fleet drifting, their lights going out one by one. In the span of 12 minutes, 200 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had been reduced to helpless metal shells. On Earth, cheering erupted in Nathan's command center. The plan had worked. The alien fleet was disabled, but Nathan knew the victory was not complete. Send recovery teams, he ordered. I want those ships secured and their crews captured. And get me a channel to the alien flagship. We need to talk to their admiral. It took several hours to restore basic systems on the wrath of Drenix. Human engineers working from captured technical manuals and Maria's understanding of Council systems managed to bring life support and communications back online. The rest of the fleet remained dark. When the communication screen finally flickered to life, Kethrel found himself looking at the face of the human commander he had expected to accept surrender from. Admiral Kethrel, Lisa said. I am Admiral Lisa Grant of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been disabled. Your weapons are offline. Your shields are down. You have 2 choices. You can order your crews to abandon ship peacefully, and we will guarantee their safety as prisoners of war. Or you can refuse, and we will board your vessels by force. The outcome will be the same, but the second option will result in unnecessary casualties on both sides. Kethrel stared at her in disbelief. This small, fragile creature had just destroyed his fleet without firing a single shot. How was this possible? How, he managed to ask. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced than yours. How did you do this? Lisa's expression did not change. You asked the wrong question, Admiral. You should have asked what we were willing to do to protect our freedom. The answer is, whatever it takes. Kethrel was silent for a long moment. He thought of his crew, floating helplessly in dead ships. He thought of the families back home who would never see them again if he chose to fight. and he thought of the report he would have to send to the Council, admitting that the mighty 14th Enforcement Fleet had been defeated by primitives. "I will order my crews to surrender," he said finally. "But you should know that this is not the end. The Council will send more ships. They will not stop until you are brought under control." Lisa nodded. "We're counting on it. Every fleet they send teaches us something new. And we learn fast, Admiral. Much faster than you expect." She ended the transmission, leaving Kethrel alone with the ruin of his command. He had come to this system expecting easy victory. He was leaving as a prisoner, carried away from his flagship by humans and primitive spacecraft. His pride as broken as his fleet, the galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not just another species waiting to be absorbed. They were something new, something dangerous, and they were only getting started. The news reached Nexus Prime 3 days after the battle. A single escape pod had managed to launch from Admiral Kethrel's flagship before the humans secured the vessel. Inside was a junior officer who had witnessed everything and recorded it for transmission to the Council. "Hi," Counselor Maroth watched the footage in his private chambers. His 4 fists clenched tight enough to crack stone. He saw the pulse waves sweep through the fleet. He saw the ships go dark, one by one. He saw the human vessels emerge from hiding like predators, closing in on wounded prey. "This is impossible," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. The evidence was right in front of him. The impossible had happened. He called an emergency session of the Council. The Great Chamber had never been so full. Species that had not attended a meeting in centuries sent representatives. Everyone wanted to understand how a primitive species had destroyed the 14th. Think Enforcement Fleet without losing a single ship. Intelligence Director Silas of the Men-3 Collective presented the analysis. The Men-3 were known for their analytical minds and their ability to find patterns that others missed. Silas had spent the last 3 days studying every piece of data from the battle. The humans used a 2-stage attack, she explained, projecting diagrams into the air above the chamber floor. First, an electromagnetic pulse disrupted our sensors and communications. This was not sophisticated technology. Our shields should have blocked it easily. And why did they not? Demanded Counselor Veth. "'Cause the humans discovered that our shields have a gap in the electromagnetic spectrum, a tiny vulnerability that has existed in Council shield designs for over 8,000 years. No one ever exploited it because no one ever thought to look for it." The chamber erupted in angry murmurs. Silas continued, raising her voice to be heard. "The second stage was more complex. A computer virus, transmitted through our communication frequencies, targeted our central processing systems. Again, our firewalls should have stopped it. But the virus was designed specifically for our architecture. It used protocols that have not changed since the Third Galactic Age. How did they know our protocols?" Morith asked. Silas blinked all 4 of her eyes in the mentory gesture of uncertainty. "We do not know for certain. Our best theory is that they analyzed the transmissions Ambassador Zereth sent during first contact. The data packets contained headers that revealed our communication standards. From there, a skilled codebreaker could have reverse-engineered our security systems. In 3 months, someone called out, that would take centuries of study." "For us, perhaps," Silas replied. "But humans do not think as we think. They approach problems differently. Where we would methodically test every possibility, they make intuitive leaps. They guess, they experiment, they try things that more logical species would consider absurd. And sometimes they succeed." She displayed a new image, this one showing captured human technology. "We have analyzed debris from the battlefield. Their weapons are crude. Their ships are barely adequate for space travel. Their computers are laughably primitive compared to ours. And yet they found a way to turn all of our advantages against us." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For 12,000 years, the Council had maintained peace through technological superiority. Their fleets were undefeatable. Their systems were unhackable. These were fundamental truths that every species accepted. The humans had proven those truths to be false. "What do we do now?" asked the L3 delegate, its energy field pulsing with agitation. "If we send another fleet, will the same thing happen?" Morath rose from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. We will not send another fleet. It's not yet. First, we will blockade their system. Cut them off from the rest of the galaxy. Let them rot in isolation while we study this problem and find a solution. On Earth, Nathan Cole was already preparing for that exact response. In his command center, he met with Lisa Grant, Patricia Simmons, and the other leaders of humanity's defense. The blockade will come within weeks, Nathan predicted. They'll station ships at every hyperspace exit point in our system. Nothing will get in or out. Can we break through? Lisa asked. Patricia shook her head. Not with our current technology. We can disable their ships when they come to us, but we can't project power beyond our own system. The pulse satellites only work at short range. Nathan nodded slowly. Then we need to change the game. We need our own hyperspace capability. The room went quiet. Hyperspace travel was the foundation of galactic civilization. The Council had controlled it for millennia. Every species that joined the Council received access to hyperspace technology in exchange for their obedience. No species had ever developed it independently. The captured Drennick ships, Samuel Wright said suddenly. We have 200 of them sitting in orbit. Their hyperspace drives are disabled by the virus, but the hardware is intact. Patricia's eyes lit up. If we can figure out how they work, we might be able to build our own version. How long would that take? Nathan asked. Years, Patricia admitted. Maybe decades. Their technology is incredibly complex. Then we better get started. Nathan turned to Lisa. Admiral, I need you to keep the Council occupied. Make them think we're content to sit behind our defenses. The longer they think we're trapped, the more time we have to work on our escape. Lisa smiled grimly. I can do that. A few provocative messages, some carefully staged military exercises. They'll be so focused on containing us that they won't suspect what we're really doing. Over the next months, the blockade tightened around the Sol system. Council ships patrolled every exit point, scanning for any sign of human activity. On Nexus Prime, Moreth declared the human problem contained. The dangerous primitives were trapped in their system, slowly running out of resources. Eventually, they would have no choice but to accept Council terms. But inside that trap, humanity was working miracles. Teams of scientists studied the captured alien ships day and night. Engineers built test versions of hyperspace components. Failures happened constantly, setbacks and explosions and dead ends. Each time, they learned something new and tried again. Maria Santos made the crucial breakthrough on a Tuesday afternoon. She was reviewing power flow diagrams when she noticed something odd about the alien drive system. It's not creating hyperspace, she said to Patricia, her voice filled with wonder. It's folding space through hyperspace. That's a completely different principle. If we apply it differently, we could make the fold more efficient. Patricia stared at the diagrams, understanding dawning on her face. The Council has been using the same design for thousands of years. They never tried to improve it because it worked well enough. But we can improve it, Maria said. We can make it faster. Maybe much faster. Work accelerated. The new drive design came together piece by piece. Tests showed promising results. And all the while, the Council watched from outside the system, congratulating themselves on how well they had contained the human threat. They had no idea what was coming. 4 years and 7 months after the Battle of Sol, as humans had come. To call it, Nathan Cole stood in a secret shipyard hidden inside an asteroid. Before him floated humanity's first independently designed starship. It was smaller than Council vessels, sleeker, built for speed rather than raw power. Does it work? Patricia smiled. We tested the drive last week. It works, and it's 30% faster than anything the Council has. Nathan felt tears forming in his eyes. He had spent his entire career preparing for threats from beyond Earth. He had never imagined that the greatest victory would not be in battle, but in engineering. When can we launch? Whenever you give the order. The first ships are ready. We've been building them in secret for the past year. Nathan turned to face the small group gathered behind him. Lisa Grant, Patricia Simmons, Maria Santos, Samuel Wright, and dozens of others who had made this moment possible. Then let's give the galaxy something to talk about, he said. It's time to show them that humanity cannot be contained. The blockade was about to become meaningless. the first sign that something had changed, came to the council as a report from a remote trading outpost. A strange ship had appeared in orbit, unlike any design in the Galactic Registry. It was small and angular, with lines that seemed to cut through space rather than glide through it. The beings aboard called themselves humans. High Counselor Morath received the report with disbelief. The humans were supposed to be trapped in their system, slowly starving behind the blockade. How had they escaped? More importantly, how had they developed hyperspace capability on their own? Within weeks, more reports arrived. Human ships appeared at trading posts across the galaxy, offering goods and technology in exchange for raw materials. They were friendly, professional, and completely uninterested in joining the council. When asked about membership, their captains would simply smile and say that humanity preferred to remain independent. The council sent ships to investigate. What they found shocked them. Human vessels were not using stolen council technology. Their hyperspace drives were completely different, based on principles that council scientists did not fully understand, and they were fast, much faster than anything the council possessed. "They have surpassed us," Intelligence Director Silas reported to an emergency session of the council. "In less than 5 years, they have not only duplicated our hyperspace technology, but improved upon it significantly. Their ships can cross the galaxy in half the time ours require." "This cannot be allowed," Morath declared. "Send the reserve fleets. All of them. We will crush them before they grow any stronger." The L3 delegate spoke for the first time in decades. "That would be unwise. The humans have demonstrated that they can defeat our forces without direct combat. Sending more ships will only provide them with more technology to study and improve upon." "Then what do you suggest?" Morath demanded. "Negotiation. Accept that they are equals and treat with them as such." Morath laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. "Equals? They are children. They have been in space for barely a century. We will not lower ourselves to negotiate with primitives." Admiral Lisa Grant arrived at Nexus Prime aboard the Earth vessel New Dawn. She was accompanied by a small fleet of 20 ships, enough to show strength without appearing threatening. She came not to submit, but to make an offer. The council grudgingly granted her an audience. They expected her to beg for mercy, to finally accept the terms of integration that her people had foolishly rejected years before. Instead, she stood before them and proposed something unprecedented. "Humanity does not seek conflict with the council," Lisa said, her voice clear and steady. "We have no desire to conquer your territory or destroy your civilization. We simply want to be left alone to develop in our own way." "You attacked our fleet," Morath accused. "Your fleet attacked us," Lisa corrected. "We defended ourselves. We will always defend ourselves against aggression. But we are also willing to trade, to share knowledge, to work together on matters of common interest." She placed a data crystal on the podium before her. "This contains technical specifications for our new hyperspace drive. We offer it freely to any species that wishes to leave council control and establish independent trade relations with Earth." The chamber erupted in chaos. Several delegates were on their feet shouting accusations. Others were quietly signaling to their aides, clearly interested in the offer. Morath was demanding order, his voice lost in the noise. Lisa waited patiently until the shouting died down. "The Council has controlled galactic commerce for 12,000 years. You have used that control to ensure obedience. Any species that defied you could be cut off from trade, isolated, starved into submission. But that power only works if there is no alternative," she smiled. "We are the alternative." Over the following months, 12 species formally withdrew from council governance. They established trade agreements with Earth, exchanging resources and knowledge through routes that bypassed council-controlled space entirely. More species began quiet negotiations, testing the waters before making public commitments. The council's response was predictable. They declared the breakaway species to be outlaws, their ships to be seized on sight. But enforcement proved difficult. Human vessels escorted trade convoys, their superior speed allowing them to evade council patrols with ease. When cornered, they employed the same tricks that had defeated the 14th Fleet. disabling enemy ships without destroying them. Nathan Cole watched the transformation from his office on Earth. He had worked his entire life preparing for the worst, and instead had witnessed something wonderful. Humanity had not just survived first contact with a hostile galaxy. They had changed it. Patricia sat across from him, older now, but still sharp as ever. "The Council's power is fading," she said. "Every year, more species join the free trade network. Their economy is collapsing." "They could still attack us directly," Nathan pointed out. "Send everything they have. But they know now what it would cost them. We've spent the last 5 years building defensive systems around Earth that make the Battle of Seoul look like a warm-up exercise. And every species in our network has agreed to mutual defense. An attack on one is an attack on all." Nathan nodded slowly. "We've built something new. Something that's never existed before. A galactic community based on voluntary association rather than forced compliance. It's fragile," Patricia warned. "Some species are joining us for purely practical reasons. They want access to our technology, not our values." "That's true, but ideas have power. Once beings experience freedom, it's hard to convince them to give it up. The Council ruled through fear. We're offering something better, something that makes fear unnecessary." On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Morith sat alone in his chambers. The Great Chamber was empty now, the crystalline walls dark. Most delegates had stopped attending sessions. The council that had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years was crumbling, not through war, but through irrelevance. He had underestimated the humans. Everyone had. They had looked at the small, fragile creatures from the third planet of an unremarkable star and seen nothing but primitives waiting to be controlled. They had not understood that humanity's weakness was also their strength. Humans had to struggle for everything. They had no natural advantages, no inherited technology, no ancient wisdom passed down from elder species. They had only themselves, their determination, and their refusal to accept that anything was impossible. And in the end, that had been enough. Lisa Grant retired from military service on her 60th birthday. She settled on a small farm on Earth, far from the politics and power plays that had consumed most of her life. Sometimes visitors came, seeking her advice or simply wanting to meet the woman who had faced down the Galactic Council. One day, an alien vessel landed in her field. She recognized it as Veltheri, the same species that had delivered the original ultimatum to humanity all those years ago. A single figure emerged, tall and tentacled, and made its way toward her house. "Admiral Grant," Ambassador Zereth said, using the title she had not carried in decades. "Do you remember me?" Lisa smiled. "You're the one who told me our species had to submit or face destruction." "Yes." Zyreth's skin changed colors in what might have been embarrassment. "I came to apologize. I was wrong about your people." "We all were." Lisa offered him a seat on her porch. They sat together, watching the sun set over fields that had been farmed by humans for thousands of years. "What made you change your mind?" she asked. Zereth was quiet for a moment. "I spent the last 20 years studying your species, your history, your culture, your way of thinking. I wanted to understand how you accomplished what you did. What did you learn? That you never stop. No matter how many times you fail, no matter how impossible the odds, you keep trying. You adapt. You improvise. You refuse to accept limits that others consider absolute." He turned to look at her with his large, liquid eyes. "It is terrifying, and it is beautiful." Lisa laughed, a sound filled with memories of battles won and friends lost, and a galaxy transformed. "We just did what we had to do. Nothing more." "No," Zyreth said softly. "You did much more than that. You showed us that the universe is larger than we imagined, that there are always possibilities we have not considered. That power is not the only thing that matters." They sat in silence as the stars came out, the same stars that had once seemed so threatening. Somewhere out there, human ships carried goods and ideas to worlds that had never known freedom. The old order was gone, placed by something new and uncertain and full of potential. Humanity had refused diplomacy on the Council's terms. In doing so, They had changed the meaning of diplomacy itself. Not submission, but partnership. Not obedience, but cooperation. Not fear, but hope. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had intended.